Ba 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 bum ba dum bum ba 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 bum ba da bum 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 bum. What's up? It's your boy Conino. Damn, it's been a while. I'm this talking to a camera thing is weird. But it just felt like a fucking light bulb went off in my head. And I gotta record. I got all this equipment, and I need to fucking do something with it. So that means that (2CT7 trip report, the mythical 2CT7 trip report. And before I start this trip report, I just want to say thank you so much to my patrons, Jackison, Antro Days, someone who wants to go just by Keza. We got Jackison at 420 on the Officially Awesome. We got Keza at 420 on the Officially Awesome. And we got Antro Days at fucking $10. $10. Thank you so much, my man. You have no idea how much that helps. And I'm in debt to you guys. And that's where we're going to tell this story. Also, I do not condone using any substances or going out and trying to use any of these substances. This is just a story that I'm telling for entertainment purposes and also potentially educational purposes as well. And when I say that, I mean so that you don't have to go do these things. You can live vicariously through my stories and you don't have to go do them. So here's the story. I have cookies and cream, 87% THC, indica hybrid, and I'm gonna take a tiny baby hit and start the setting of the story. So this all starts at a period of time in my life when I was not living at my house. I had tried to kind of run away with a homie from high school. This is after I graduated and after Berkeley, and we tried to go down to California, and the plan was we were gonna go and live in my cousin's hometown and sell drugs down there. And my cousin backed out of it. He said he doesn't want us doing that down there. He despises the idea. He's had a full switch. And we ended up not making it all the way down there anyways. We drove from where I am in Washington, and we started driving south, and as the sun was going down, we took a bunch of MDMA and ended up going out through the country and saying how we were going to catch a plane to Peru, and we were seriously serious. We were going to go down there and try to find a shaman. And that never ended up happening. We ended up like 4 hours away in Vancouver, Washington, and we were just like, fuck it, you know what, we're going to go back. So we went back and ended up buying a motel room kind of on the other side of town by the freeway, also on the lake, but not right on the lake, up the hill. So you'd have to go down kind of sagebrush and gravel to get to the lake, but you still had a view of the lake and the freeway and across to another park that I'm very familiar with. My house that I grew up in is just right across the freeway right over there. So we're staying in this motel, and it is a low-star motel. It's like a half-star motel, and it's all sketchy. It's known to be where meth dealers hang out and shit, and it looks like it used to be quaint little place. I mean, they had a lot of nautical stuff around. They had a fireplace out there, a pool that no one ever used and was all disgusting, and a little place that's a little home that you go and check in that's completely separate. It looks like a little cottage, and then you go to the motel. It's just one block, one 2-story building, just going down probably like 11 or 12 rooms on the bottom and top floor. There was 2 staircases to get up to it, top floor, but they were strange staircases in that there was nothing on either side of them or below them like that. So if that was going up to the building and you're walking up, there's nothing on the side, nothing below. It was just the cement. And then up to the balcony. And we were up there on the last end of the very last room. We have been doing all kinds of shenanigans. Hella spice, some other harder shit, meth. So something that we had decided is we're gonna still try our plan just in my hometown, allegedly. And I acquired off the ClearNet. This was a chemical manufacturer, a biochemical manufacturer, and it was, I don't want to say the name, but it was a biotech company that's now gone. The person that you emailed was called Alice, so I emailed Alice about the 2CT7. They had other stuff on there, pentadrone, other cathinone stimulants, fluorinated amphetamines, but they noticeably had phenethylamines. And I realized that last time I said phenethylamines, I said phenethylamines or something. That's not how it's pronounced. It's pronounced phenethylamines. And I actually have the book, P-Cal, phenethylamines I have known and loved. The person who synthesized this for the first time ever signed it by him, and his nickname, Sasha, or what he goes by. And so 2C27 is actually, you know, the synthesis and everything that is in here. It's an interesting and amazing book by Alexander Shulgin. Also the first person to really synthesize MDMA. They called him the father of MDMA. To get back on track, I ended up getting 300 grams. No, sorry, excuse me, 10 grams for $300. And so the active dosage of, or dose for 2CT7 is in the milligrams. It would be considered 10 milligrams orally. 10 grams is 10,000 milligrams, which means that I had 1,000 10 milligram doses that, if were to be sold at $10 each, would equal $10,000. So it was a valuable package, to say the least, and we were having it sent to this motel, or I was having it sent. My friends didn't know how to do any of this shit. And so we waited and waited, and sure enough, after a week and a couple days, we go out there and there's a package with Chinese writing on it. And we open it, and it's really not that much. 10 grams is not that much. To give you some perspective, a dollar bill weighs a gram. And so it got there. I had a friend that had a millimeter scale, and we got like pretty much 100 doses kind of laid out, and the rest was in there. He didn't have time to do all of them because he was just visiting. So we had 100 pills, capsules of 2CT7. We had experimented it with a little bit, and then one day I just decided to dive in. Interestingly enough, the original person that I went on the trip with ended up not even staying with me anymore because it freaked him out too much, the drugs and shit. He was like really Christian, and he had done Spice once and just had a mental breakdown, and he ended up completely leaving. It's a funny story for another time. My other homies ended up coming and staying.
My homie had $2,000, and we ended up going halfway to California. I ended up crashing part of his van because I couldn't drive in the ice right, and he ended up going insane on Spice and dipping off, and then my other better homies came over, and that's when shit got crazy.
My homie Cody, who was my best friend, and he's over in New York right now, but he's coming back, and he's in like all my stories and shit and all my videos, and he'll be in future videos. What's up, bro? And we got Slav. I'm gonna call him Slav. That's the other homie. He's from the Ukraine, or he's Ukrainian. He's a badass dude. I'm close with Cody, but I wasn't as close with Slav. So it was an interesting dynamic because I know Slav is potentially someone who is dangerous. He'll fuck you up. You know, he had just came back from the riots over there, Russia versus Ukraine shit that was going on a couple years ago, and he had a broken leg from it, and he still didn't give a fuck. So we ended up dosing. I think Slav may have took 2 or 3, my homie took 3 or 4, and I ended up taking 7 or 8. I know it was at least 7. This is an extremely large dose, and this is something I would never recommend anyone take. The 2CT7 has killed someone before. It's a horrible story. They were snorting it, and it ended up killing them. It took too much, you know. Yeah, so who knows what could have happened? How it could have reacted, or, I mean, who knows what it really was. The substance could have been anything. It was mailed from fucking China. But it was definitely 2CT7. I was gonna be in for a ride. I guess I didn't take the 7 all at once. I took 4, followed by 3 more a few hours into it. So now, we're gonna get into the trip itself. It's been so long. Oh. So, the trip itself. I just feel like I need to get more relaxed. Right up. It's a weird position. Okay, so it takes 3 hours for this substance to hit, and that's roughly how long it took before I started noticing anything. Started getting the usual perturbances in my feelings. My temperature come up a little bit or go down. Feeling kind of just off. Something's different. Something's changing, you know? And at some point then the visuals start to come in and they're flowing in and I'm feeling it. I'm like, okay, this is nice. It's not quite like as heavy a body load as 2CE, but it's already feels like something's on the horizon. Like, imagine there's this big fog up ahead of you when you're on a kayak and you don't know what's on the other side. You're about to go into this fog on this giant river. You don't know if the river goes off a waterfall or what, but I know I can hear the energy of a waterfall in the distance. The first super cool visuals I got that I remember very clearly is I went to go to the bathroom, and as I'm pissing and looking at the wall, regular wall, not the type of wall that's super smooth, but just kind of bumpy, you know, over the paint, like just a little. It's like how my walls are right now. It's hard to notice. It's not as smooth as glass, but it's a wall. It's a fucking wall. And so I started getting these visuals, jungle animals in motion, 2D jungle animals in a stereoscopic way in the wall. Go look up a stereogram. You have to let your eyes go kind of lazy, and then the visual pops out. Go look that up and look exactly what I mean. So it was like one layer of the wall popped out farther just a little bit. The part that was popping out was the animals. So everything was still wall. The animals came out to the front, and then backwards kind of went the background, like kind of jungle shit, like vines and leaves or whatever. But mainly I just remember it was like a monkey jumping in there, and it's like on a thing that's moving like 2D. It was 2D, like a fucking Super Mario or Sonic the Hedgehog, and they were jumping over shit, and then the monkey would evolve into a tiger, and this was all playing out on the wall in front of me as a stereogram as I'm pissing. This is when I first noticed this was very unique. The last time I ever got a stereoscopic visual like that was on mushrooms at school once, but it wasn't as clear as this. This was super solid. Like I could look away and look back and it would still be going. These were fucking monkeys and animals. I go out to tell my friends what happened, and it's dark and they're on the beds and the energy just changes, and I realize, oh fuck, we are all tripping. And I don't know who Slav is super well. I knew Slav, but also like I don't know what's going on. It's starting to get dark, and the feelings are getting up, and we're like, shit, fuck. We go outside to get some like nervous energy out as we're all starting to trip, and we go out to the ridge to look out at the lake. And I remember just the feeling this great ancient like time, like feeling deep time and space out as I looked out there, and it was a very spiritual feeling, very spiritual, and it felt very clean and pure. It's hard to explain what I mean by that. Like, it didn't feel as synthetic as other substances. Like it felt more like something from shrooms, and 2CT7 I believe is the most closely related substance he made to mescaline, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, I noticed a growing kind of feeling of I don't even know what word for it. As we were walking back up the hill, and this phantasmagoric kind of smooth visuals around me, and I noticed Cody goes to go for the fireplace. At some point we had gone back upstairs, and I had taken another 3, and the idea for the fireplace happened. So Cody started getting the fireplace set up, and we're all sitting there, and I'm not starting to get to that point where English is starting to kind of fail on me, and I'm just sitting back, and he just keeps saying, I'm the fireman, I'm the fireman, I'm the fireman, and throwing the logs on there and going, hey, I'm the fireman. And I was looking up, and he was tall and sinewy and slender, and oh, the fireman, bam, and then he'd throw it down, and we lit the fire, and the fire came up, and I just melted and sank back into the ground, and felt like the ground was grabbing me and pulling me back, and I was put and stopped just like this, like IMAX, watching things come in this hyperbolic view around me, just kind of like I couldn't barely move. And I remember just feeling this kind of friendly feeling with my friend. That's what does that even mean? At some point we had tried to go across the freeway bridge, and I actually believe this may be earlier, and he switched this around before when we were still coming up. We're going across the bridge, and we stop, and as the semi-trucks are coming from far away, you see them coming, and as they get closer, you can hear the engine and feel the power, and then they go under you. I literally had this distinct feeling that those semi-trucks coming, and this is true too, but I had this realization that the energy of those trucks and those cars was the literal same energy from the Big Bang. That one event carried a wave through time and space. It created time and space, whatever. But the energy from it that also created the kind of plasma soup that was the early, universe. That energy is still going, and all these things are happening or whatever, and how the evolution of physics and all that or whatever. But that same energy was represented within that truck as it moved, because that kinetic energy moving, it got that from the physical fuel. It has energy that's contained and stored in it from the original Big Bang, and all these, every particle you see or whatever is a part of that. Feel the energy come through and zap me. After coming up from the fire and having that happen, and at the time it was just I felt like I was sinking into the ground, and this music was playing, like Lil Wayne, Fireman. I think that's the song he was trying to go for too. And I'm back up on the deck, sitting there, sit down and I close my eyes, and the lake's out there and it's quiet, and I think they're back in the room, and I just remember feeling this oneness, like birds were these loons. It felt like a loon was or some shit, you know, and I felt it reverberate at a perfect symmetrical way, and it triggered this, like, the DNA strand of all of life in both directions, and it felt like I could feel each animal evolving through the DNA. It's very strange to describe, but it felt like I was just sitting there, and it was strung out, the whole thing in front of me. And I didn't understand it, but it was right there and displayed for me in a way that I couldn't see, but that I felt in those sound waves that were coming into me. Very spiritual feeling and all this happening. Now here's where shit starts to get crazy. And when I say crazy, I mean something happened that I have never had happen on another hallucinogen, nor that I think could happen this way. And it was so clean too. It was so, like, insane. So a second time when we were coming back up the steps to go back to the room, and this was when the other three were starting to hit me, I believe. 2CI, I had the feeling like I was on a people mover. On this one, it felt like I was more on a people mover stair stepper, kind of floating, walking. And as we got to those stairs, and I went to walk up them, I'm walking up, I'm looking down, I'm looking through the stairs to the ground below me. And as we get higher up, I can see the door below, through the cement stairs, I shit you not, moving the same way it would move as if the stairs were not there, like perfectly as I walk up. Go into the room, and that had happened, and as I walk back into the room and I turn around, I'm looking through the wall at the fucking bars that are out there on the hallway, in the room. Look at our blacklight poster, my blacklight poster that I have. And I look at it for a couple seconds, and I close my eyes, and my eyes close around it. And it stays right there. Perfect. I swear it was like I didn't close my eyes at all. And I sat there for a couple minutes telling them, you guys, look at me. I'm seriously looking at my blacklight poster 100% clear right now. And my eyes are closed, and I'm just sitting here in disbelief. Like, this is not merely seeing things wave and distortions. Part of the trip leaked into part of the brain, or made the brain have the connections or disconnections in the right area that unlocked that same part. I mean, you already know we only use like a small amount of our brain percentage, so it's not that like far off to believe. So what tripped me out about this to the huge degree is that I would see through the wall to the other rooms, and there would be kind of figures moving through it, people. This is up for debate for you guys. I truly believe I could have passed that test. And it would have been like, I put this here, and you're tripping, and I have this pen, and I go like this to move the pen, and you still see the pen the whole time as it goes through. Now, I don't think I could really see through this. I don't think if someone had a random number behind it, I'd be able to tell them what number. Or that the people I saw walk around were really the people in the other rooms. It was just, in my opinion, what my brain was filling in. Now, you may believe that I was really seeing the other people, that I really had unlocked something even more amazing, that I could really see through walls at that moment. And I don't know, and I don't think that's true personally. I'd have to do a test to find out, and that's what makes me really interested potentially one day of actually running tests on this subject. But when I walked from room to room, the rooms through the wall moved it's not like it was a burned image where the thing was stuck at whatever angle I last saw it. Fuck your battery. Go to hell. So, like I said, when I walked on the stairs, you know how a door below you looks when you're walking above it? It's like this, and then at some point, the angle starts to go like this until you're straight above it. And I swear, when I got on the stairs and I walked, just looking through the fucking stairs, as I walked, the door moved just like it would have at the same rate. My brain took the information from the other angles around or whatever and had the image there and then supplemented the moving for me. It took the image that I already saw and moved it for me. That's your brain acting like a 3D image processor, like a computer when you're building a landscape or something. That's like what it did, dude. I swear to fucking God. Imagine the implications. A page of a book. Is this 2CG? So, pretend you are given 4 seconds to look at this book, just up and down, and then they close it. And then someone else has the page, and you have that image in your closed eyes because you're on this fucking God level. I swear, you'd be able to read it. I would be able to read back that page. Photographic memory. I'm not someone who has photographic memory. Was able to process images in that way. Insane. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Brain is optimized for survival in the macro universe, picking up things and remembering what's up to useful for you and what surviving a tiger attack or being able to perceive the right distances or shades or colors, feelings, whatever. You understand that concept. My brain would shut off so much and focus and computing, so to speak, into that ability is just unbelievable. So that's when the trip I started realizing was something else. This was something other. This was getting crazy. And the implications were insane. Like, what the fuck? Like, photographic memory, dude. What the fuck? Arguing about potentially going out across the lake or something, saying I'm scared that these clown things are gonna get us or some shit, which was based off of some dude that don't like me who's in ICP. And I was saying, well, like, what if the whole ICP crew comes and the Ukrainian dude's like, dude, I'll fuck them up or whatever. Interesting fact, side note, getting a little distracted, is my homie Slav, he was smoking cigarettes on this, and each time he would smoke it, he would throw up, and he would say to him it was like he could feel the damage it was doing to his lungs, like he could actually feel what it was doing to him, and it made him throw up, and he quit cigarettes for years after. I think I need to stop doing that. My hair looked damn ugly. Ooh. The trip's getting crazy. I'm laying down, and ego's getting closer to that point where it's not gonna be good, because it's like the last time it was this far gone was Berkeley, and so there is a panicky feeling to it. I start feeling like the perfect song is being sung to me, like the perfect lyrics, and I wanted to voice them and remember them, and I remembered parts of them, but then I lost it. It was like the perfect rap, and then it was gone. These visualizations that were happening, I mean, we're already a good 8-9 hours into the trip, and I'm laying there, and I swear I'm getting nervous, and I'm thinking that there's 3 beds, and I'm thinking that my brain is no longer closed system, that it's open like this, and it's going into their brains that are also open, and that they can see into my brain. And I'm like, fuck, like they're thinking they know my thoughts. I'm like, is he gonna want to hurt me? Like, is he gonna do something to me? Like, you start getting back to that vulnerable, like, I feel like a little kid, like scared, like a little bitch baby boy, like, oh shit, like what's going on in this room, dude? Like, oh no, they know. And that's when I'm starting to like go through all these thoughts, like, what happens if I give this to someone and they crash their car and die? Like a high school kid or some shit. Like, what? How many years in prison will I get? Like, this is terrible. Like, I'll end up in fucking prison, or my homies will end up dead. Something bad will happen. Blah 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 blah. And I get up and I look in the mirror and and I see my beard, and like I'm thinking, who am I? You know, the usual psychedelic over. Who am I? Like, why am I doing this? Like, I need to be focusing on music. Blah blah blah. And I rip up the letter and I light it on fire in a bowl, and that's when I tell them, guys, like, I'm getting rid of this, and I go and I grab it and I go to pour it in the toilet, and they're like, no, dude, because remember, this is $10,000 street value. I dump it. We still have the 100 capsules, but I dumped the rest of it. And they're like, oh no, why? Or whatever. And it's like, I do, just like, trust me, it's mine. Like, we still have some, don't worry about it, whatever. and I start trying to hide the evidence of everything. And as I'm going to clean them up, I'm starting to break down now. And like, I start feeling like the whole town is in my thoughts, and that the whole town can see my deepest, darkest like thoughts, and that they all know the worst things I've done, like the reprehensible fucking things I've done in my whole life, all my like darkest secrets, whatever. And then even the cops know it. And not only that, they know the dirtiest things and darkest things that I've ever thought in my mind, ever. And they're all in there, and I'm like almost arguing with them, telling like, no, you've thought like this too, though. And like, cops have murdered people, though, and like those are just my thoughts, and like, oh fuck, like get out of my head. Like my mom and dad and everyone could see the thoughts. They could see them, and I'm just sitting there like, I'm sorry. And like get down on my knees basically, and I'm just crying, and I'm like, I'm sorry, saying sorry to all the people I've ever wronged, like in my mind. And it was really emotional, spiritual, and deep thing, kind of like the time I took the 11 dried grams of my grandparents, or 7 grams, I can't remember. My ego's breaking down at this point as well, though. Like I'm going in and out of kind of like losing it and getting those feelings like of, oh shit, like the feeling that hell's around the corner, basically, like the demons are here, that they're ready now, like they're rattling the cage now, like I've gone deep and all this other shit, but now it's like starting to peel back my skull, and the bells are going off, and I'm like back at that, getting close to the edge of the woods of fucking Satan's home, or some Illuminati headquarters. I'm just playing like this, no, but really the Illuminati. Like I'm starting to get back to where I was at Berkeley, and it's just like, oh shit, this is fucked up. Like I'm like, oh, like. And that goes on for I don't know how long. I think like maybe 20, half an hour. And as I'm barely coming out of it, I'm trying to put the bags away, and I'm putting the bags inside of the bags, and it just triggers a paradox in my mind, in my tripping mind at least, where to me it was like, oh, this is impossible. Like how is there a bag inside of a bag inside of a bag? The bag is in the bag that's 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 in the bag. Like I kept thinking that you usually put a bunch of bags in one bag, but I was putting the bag inside a bag, and then putting those bags inside the next bag, and putting those bags inside the next bag, and I was like, this is impossible. This is like, what's that? Like I just kept saying bags inside of bags. And I was trying to clean, because I'm trying to frantically make everything more organized. This was an attempt by me to kind of insert some type of order onto this chaos. Like, so I'm trying to put things on a grid, trying to put those straight lines on the wiggly nature, as Alan Watts would say. Start putting things into the corner, but then on that corner, there's a corner of that corner on that corner. And I'm like, the bags aside of the bags, and the corners and the corners, and at this point, the visual level's not to where I can see through the walls, and that phenomenon's over. That at this point it's way more mental, and the whole town's fearing my thoughts and blah blah blah. And as I finally am coming out of that, and we've gone out. What the fuck? What the fuck? Dude, did that 4K video just crash my computer, bro? Anyways, fuck, that super orgy mindfuck. Like the elephant penis thrusting into my mind. I was elephant mind fucked. And I don't know if you can see him hiding around, but there's a lot of elephants back there. I don't fuck those ones. Those are made out of wood. As coming out of that, sun is briefly starting to come up, just barely. And there's this feeling of like a journey that we had gone on. Oh, before that, I should say a moment that happened. And there were so many more. I'm going to miss so many. It's such a long story. As I'm laying there, kind of in that period where the song was coming in my mind, I shit you not, the fucking gardener dude peeks into the door, and we're all just laying on our backs. And they're like, oh, excuse me, sir. Connor, can I have some of your weed? I'm just like, I didn't understand barely anything he said. He might as well have just been like, Hala runga la budu bead. And I just was like, oh. He's like, and he didn't say anything else. And I was like, huh? But I could tell it was a question. And I was like, yeah. And so this person I don't even know, kind of plumper Mexican dude, just walks in over to the drawer. Somehow he knew that's where my weed was. And he just opens it and then takes a nug and walks out. But for me, in my mind, I'm like, this is some rant. Is this real? What is this? A goblin up in the belfry? Like, what's coming in the door? That was a freaky moment. Just hello, My bubble was pierced immediately. Like, what the fuck? I'm already nervous that my Ukrainian friend's gonna beat the shit out of me for no reason. Oh yeah, during that trip I had a knife. And we were all kind of sitting there on my... He was like, what is sharp? What is sharp? What is sharp? And like, you know how that can happen on a trip. Like the first shroom trip I had, I didn't even know what scissors were when my mom said, can you come help me cut these? And I was thinking of scissors, and it was just too complex emotion for me to even conceptualize. And I kept thinking in my mind, like, I got paranoid he was going to use it to stab me. Like, I was getting legit paranoid. And he was like, what is this sharp? And what is sharp? And in my mind, I'm like, fuck. Like, so I ended up opening the drawer and throwing the knife out the window. We retrieved that knife. I still have that knife. That's my friend Cody's knife. We just used that to open a box from Amazon. My mom used that as a box opener. The sun's beginning to come up again. Been exhausted, but we're still tripping hard. And we're watching this cartoon. And there must have been an error with the feed or something, because the cartoon was in English, but there was a Spanish version quieter in the background. It was really, at times you couldn't even notice it, because some Spanish words are much longer than English words, or vice versa. You could hear there'd be a time where they weren't talking in English, but you'd hear the Spanish words come in because they had to come in because it took longer, like I said. And so you'd hear like, yeah, and we need to go down and fight the other people. A la rumba. Oh, we need to go pick up the goldfish. Go over here, and we had some celery, and it was chupa mi verga puto lanza. Just in the background, very quiet. But we didn't know if it was real or not. So we were trying to verify with each other that were we all having the same hallucination at the same time? You know, the seeing through the walls thing is the most insane part of this trip. But the trip itself took on a real feeling of tribal, primitive, almost like nomadic, like how we would have been out on the plains. And I think that can explain some of the paranoia part of it as a survival instinct. That would be a hallucinogen then which would make you more paranoid, then you would be more likely to survive. Potentially. I can see that being a reason maybe why mescaline was favored in the gene pool. I'm stoned as fuck, so give me a second here. I'm gonna get more stoned to give you some visuals of it. So, shit, where's my motherfucker? Visuals were really natural, flowy, kind of... Body load never became like a 2CE, super unbearable, uncomfortable, but it definitely was comfortable at times. Got kind of that electrified feeling at times too, but this whole thing was a tribal thing, and this like back to the jungle, so to speak. That it all started with that motif when the little animals were playing on the stereographic wall while I was taking a piss outside of from my dick, and
Seriously.
2CT7, as it was finally coming to an end, we had all started talking, and I started playing like my little keyboard, and we were all talking with this like about after we were done being tripped out by the fact there was another language on the TV. We were all talking about what we were gonna do next, and as the sun was coming up, it was like a new day. It was like a new birth, almost like new take on life. I think because it came from the having said I was sorry and realizing how much of a piece of shit I had been, which is a common psychedelic thing. Another part of the 2CT7 I'd like to mention that's insane, might have been the same morning actually, we're done with the trip, or when we were, the visuals were still there, and it's gonna be a new day, and we're gonna do great, we're gonna do good things, man, all of us were talking about it. I was sitting out there on the bench on the balcony looking across the lake where there's a freeway part of it, looking at this park. There's a bunch of grass and shit on the other side, but it's pretty far away. And I'm in awe of how it looks. And I can't explain this other than it was like hyperbolic space. And go look up hyperbolic videos. When something gets farther away, distances get shorter. So like a row of telephone poles, as it gets farther away into the distance, they'll get shorter. But the way that I was looking at this, the distances appeared as a matter of a visual illusion that I do not understand how it was even possible. But it was like all the distances were the same. It was like I could take one step and my foot would be on the grass that's 5 football fields that way across a lake. And it was like, usually the distance, something in the distance is gonna look flat Like out way off in the distance, mountains, it will look like they were painted on the horizon. But I could see the distance between every tree, every blade of grass. It felt like I still believe. I mean, or I still think if I was looking at a mountain or whatever, like that looks like a painting to someone else, that I would see it completely differently. Like each gradient different on a hyperbolic level, like that I could, like it was right there. Literally, it did not, my field of vision was not, I'm not comparing the distances to that. I'm comparing it from trees to each another trees to each other trees.
The trees to the other one.
In a park. We're like all equal in just the way it's, man, it's like if you were looking at those super small little towns, miniature towns that have all the little parts and the cars and the trains that go around and the little miniature setups. When you look across that, the detail is equal at each point because it's all right there in front of you. Boop-a-doo. Your brain puts that as one object. So in that same way, my vision did not change as it got farther away. Usually your vision squeezes together, it gets farther away. Mine didn't. The clarity was perfectly equal between all of it. And it was impossible to describe, but the thing that was farther away, you could see the edges of in such a way that it was like you were looking at a miniature. Like a miniature world, seriously. So it looked like as if I had not quite a telescope, but perspective-wise, like it was all clear, like it was all, I could reach out and grab it. It looked just like a miniature. That's a perfect way to describe it. Almost like the blur with the camera and how your eyes focus. Oh shit! What if it changed completely the way my eyes focus? That it, usually your eyes, if you have something up close, you can only get detail here while it's blurry back there. And when something's far away, stuff's blurry right here. It was blurry nowhere. That's the point. Like it was, not only that it had the illusion of stretching of that hyperbolic way, it was not, my foreground was not blurry when I was focused on something. My focus was spread out across a wider area and everything right here stayed. It was like the part that I could see fucking went out. Like my brain was able to take in more information. Think about that for a second. When something is in your peripheral vision, it's still in your vision. And when you're looking at something, like look at something right now close to you, imagine not only being able to read that, but see every word around you at the same time too, so you can see the full field of view. That's what it felt like. And I don't know if I could see, or if it was similar to the way that my brain was filling in how it looks through going, seeing something through the wall that was there, like the photographic memory. Maybe that's my brain applying the photographic memory so that it appeared that my focus was everywhere. And imagine how that would appear to you. Just do that experiment right now. Like,
look at a word right here, something close up to you, and imagine being able to read words off over here at the same time, off at the edge of your vision. Something everywhere. You could see every detail everywhere. It was like you were focused at each point.
now that's impossible. And Jesus, my throat fucking hurts from... Someone better not give me a cold or some corona, bro. I can usually feel when I start getting something. I can feel it right here in these glands.
Glands.
I better not be having no corona, dude. That's how it looked. And I'm glad I remember that detail. That looking off across the lake was so insane. I cannot believe it, and I cannot believe what I've seen. Photographic memory. Because, I mean, I've seen crazy distortions and other shit, and it's cool, but when you can characterize it in the way it's quantifiable in a way, photographic memory, that's something that's applicable to real-world situations. I mean, imagine if you used this substance as a springboard for trying to figure out another substance that one day you could give that would literally make it so that people could have photographic memory for a brief time. That they would have the ability to see through walls or whatever the fuck. At least the way I did, without any of the side effects of a trip or something. Maybe something that you inhale that makes it so that that happens and it only lasts for, say, 15 minutes or 10 minutes, like a 10-minute high that you had the photographic memory. Imagine that, like a world that was a thing. Believe that's something that could be possible in the future due to my experience on 2CT7. This was unbelievable. absolutely unbelievable. And I mean what I say. Like, this is a hill I will die on. I could remember a page from any book only having looked at it for 3 seconds. I could close my eyes and read that page of that book. Maybe he'd let me look at it for 5 seconds. But that's photographic fucking memory, dude. As for looking through walls and shit, like, that's crazy that my mind was applying that in that way. Let's say in a computer. And that the other part where there was no blur, that my field of focus was equal from here to as far as to the horizon. It was focused. And that's a weird thing to see and experience as well. For the 2CT7 trip, the intensity and duration of it was crazy. It was like a 16 or 17 hour experience overall. I was sober for months after the experience. Very powerful in that way, and that was with nothing else. When you look in clinical literature or something, people that are addicted statistically don't just get sober and stay sober for any duration of time for no reason or without. There's something they're doing every day, or they have a rehab, or like they're taking urine tests, a sober living house. People can do it out of pure will, free will. That's what I did, but I had never done it for any other reason. And I mean, I was trying to move to another state in a van and other shit, and this shit switched my world around, like, real quick. And this happens, I think, with psychedelics, especially in the natural ones. And this one is why this one's interesting to me, because it was the most spiritual for a non-natural psychedelic. I forgot my train of thought. To CT7, it was one of the most crazy trips I've had. I really got close to going off the edge, though, like on that 70 milligrams of really like snapping, like, and freaking out and like getting naked like I did at Berkeley, and then heart stopping and fighting the Lil Wayne and the hell and all that. You know that story. Go to my 25 I Gnome overdose trip story in a trailer if you get a chance. But shit, wait, who are you? Yeah, I'm getting tired, shit. Yeah, it was crazy. It was fucking crazy. And I'll never forget it. And I don't ever think, I don't know, like, I can't find 2CT7 on the darknet right now. Like, I don't think 2CT7's on there. I'm sure I could acquire it, but it's just like, I don't want to right now. Even if I could, it would just be to store it the time, because I'm on an SNRI right now, so it's not like I could do some legitimate self-testing with the substance, nor would I want to at a dose that high, again, necessarily, like that. This was before I had anxiety and panic attacks, and before, like, yeah, it was before that, so I was much braver jumping into it. And now, I mean, look at me now. Like, they think something's up with me, but I almost want to doubt, like, I have a doubt in my mind, thinking they're just trying to milk me for money. Shit, yeah, battery's dying. It was awesome talking to you guys, so you can check out my Patreon in the description. Also, I have merch that I sell through Rajon. I only get like a couple dollars from it, so I'm thinking about actually just going, making my own shirts. But tell me which ones you like the most, you'd be most likely to buy. Yeah, I don't know what else. It's been awesome telling the story. I'm sorry I've been so slow on it. I'm high. So the reason my hair's so short is the barber fucked up really bad, and I had to make the best of it. It is what it is. It's got my Grateful Dead shirt on. You already know. I got my curly kitty. Love you so much. Please don't break up with me. Also, put the alerts on if you can when you see this video. And thank you to my Patreon so much. You guys are so sexy, so awesome, so perfect, so great. So great. Chicken dinner great. Pancake breakfast great. You know. Anal on the first date great. I thought my battery's gonna die anyway. What's going on?